day. Well, your dad, here is the traffic on your way to work. Here are the things that you should know about today. And then if mom walks up to the fridge, she can tap a screen on the fridge and it would say, oh, your mom, here's the traffic that you need today. Here's the weather you need today. Here are the things you need to do today. And then when the kid pops out, it'll be like, here is the news that pertains to you today. And then he was like, you could have these things all around the house and just leave it where it's at. This can be the kitchen interface. And he was saying like bulletin board like system. Bill is on the same lines as Nightwise. And I did ding Nightwise on Google Plus since he's in Belgium. I think it's like 3 a.m. now. So he hasn't replied. But I want to listen to that cast again and the whole time think about Raspberry Pis because I think now it is possible.
Yeah. I mean, you have to get the screens.
Well, that's the thing. You got to have an in where you can find screens at a reasonable price.
Right.
Now, I do know what I think I heard was possible was you can buy any size screen and then separately get the touch screen layer and basically put it right over top it. So you can turn any screen into a touchscreen screen. I got to look at that separately versus buying it together to see what's possible.
Right. That's interesting. I never heard of that. Actually, I have seen them, but they didn't use the same type of technology.
Right. And that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of a simple system. Like I could put one right by my door. And when I leave at 6 a.m. with the kids and the wife is still asleep, I can just walk by the door and say, click a thing and draw on the screen with my finger. Don't forget to blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And then just walk out the door. And then when she comes down to leave out of work, it'll be standing there right by the door.
Right. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
And then she'll delete everything you said.
Oh, I'm sure.
All right. Thank you, Bill, on that one. Let's see here. Next one from Ben. Hey, Steve and Steve, I have a few ideas for the Pi if I'm not too late. Number 1, a plug-and-play traffic anonymizer. There are several services that offer VPN accounts for people who, for whatever reason, want to hide their online activities. The problem with them is that is that they can be tricky for the average user to set up, and it's hard to make all the devices on a network use the service at the same time. The anonymizer would consist of a Pi running a pre-configured VPN client or Tor along with a DHCP server. This would mean that all the end user would have to do is plug it into their router, and in theory, all of the clients connected to their network would automatically be anonymized. One of the pitfalls of this idea is that typically there will already be a DHCP server running, so the end user would probably have to disable it for the device to be completely effective. I can think of a couple ways that this could be done from a script using something like curl, but they're probably beyond the scope of this email. Note, I am not advocating people breaking the law. I just think that people should be able to be anonymous if they want to be. 2, a GPS-aware beer cooler.
Oh.
All right, well, let's talk. He's got 3 here, so let's talk about the first one first. What do you think about that one, Dor?
I'll agree. And here's the thing. Here's my example of how I can use it. I get really mad at BIOS, and I want to start looking online about how I can barbarically butcher them. I don't want them to know I'm looking it up. I want to be anonymous.
Yes. You're saying if this is, because you're not upset with BIOS, or are you?
I'm always upset with some provider service, but I'm not that upset right now.
Okay.
I will say this to me sounds very plausible, very doable. Worst case scenario, you might have to, for instance, take the device first, plug it up to any computer on your network kind of thing, plug it up, and it would have auto running scripts for Mac, Linux, and Windows, and it would automatically launch. And when you would launch it, it would actually change the DHCP on the router. And then when you're done, you unplug it, then connect it to the back of the router. So it's like this end is you first set up to a computer, and then this end you plug into the network.
I see.
So that definitely doable. Definitely would be just a touch tricky setting it up.
Yeah. Right. Neat. Next suggestion for him is a GPS-aware beer cooler. Creating a cooling device using a Peltier. What the hell is that? Do you know, Dor?
You got me, man.
Using a Peltier and some form of beer can size enclosure to trap the cold air in. This would be connected to the Pi. There are several apps for I/O iOS. Did you say iOS? Yes, there are several apps for iOS. Not sure if similar ones exist for Android that will let people see where you are on a map based on the location that your device is reporting. A script could be written that interrogates a service like this to find out when you're nearly home and turn on the Peltier, thereby making sure the beer is nice and cold for you by the time you get home. I know it would be much easier to just leave a beer in the fridge all day, but that's nowhere near as cool. Oh, he's got a Peltier. Did you put that down there, Dor?
I just put that there.
Nice. Dor puts right in the notes. That's why I love Google Docs. Dor puts a Wikipedia entry for Peltier, which looks like it's going to be just as confusing. Thermoelectric effect. What does it do? Peltier effect. For everybody who's watching live, you see that equation? That is the Peltier effect, and hopefully that clears everything up. Q equals pi, AB, I equals parentheses, pi underscore, or pi subscript minus B minus pi subscript A multiplied by I.
Okay.
Clear it up?
Yes, the Peltier effect can be used to create a refrigerator which is compact and has no circulating fluid or moving parts.
Aha. So it's an effect. It's something that's able to cool. It's a way to cool things without moving parts, I guess. Something of the sort. I get you. Okay, very cool.
The best way I can explain it is you've seen those USB coffee heater things where it's just a little pad.
Yeah.
I think it's the same kind of thing, but only cooling.
I see. Peltier cooling. Sorry we're stuck on this, but I gotta see a picture.
I know. Trust me. I read it and I just right over it.
It's
just glossed.
It's definitely a way of cooling, and here's some Peltier stuff. Neat.
Right. And I am the guy. I want something to be peak cold at a certain time.
Yeah.
Because, like, a beverage out of the refrigerator still might not be the optimal temperature, but I don't want my entire refrigerator to be down that far. It costs a lot of money. So if I could say, and trust me, I did this before, big liter bottles of water, I had timed. I'd put it in a freezer, and I knew how long it would take to where I could pull it out, and it was still liquid. But then as soon as I touched it, the vibration would make it turn to ice. Because I used to do it to people who I knew, let's say, did hallucinogenics in their past, and it would completely freak them out.
What? I don't understand what you mean. What the hell are you talking about? How do you make a liquid turn to ice by touching it?
Well, honestly, okay, and I've seen it with beers too. BK, when you put something in the freezer, a bottle of water, it isn't moving. There is no friction. There is no crystallization of it until the whole thing basically becomes one solid block of ice. If you time it right, when you pull it out, it will still be water. And then as soon as you touch something, you can see from one end where you started to touch, crystals basically start to form throughout the whole thing of water.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
And the first time I saw it, I thought to myself, if I would have done hallucinogenics in my life, this would confuse me a great deal.
All right. I like his next one here. A super MIDI controller keyboard. I think we already had one like this too. It's a good idea all around. Purchase a cheap USB-powered controller keyboard. By the way, that's a piano-looking keyboard that has no sounds in it. It just sends data to your computer. So it's used to control software. But here's what he says. Use a USB-powered controller keyboard and mount the Pi inside the casing. Remember to make holes in the case for the various ports on the Pi. I don't have that much experience of creating music under Linux, but I'm guessing the CPU would be able to handle some basic soft synthesizers. This should result in a highly portable and modifiable keyboard for much less than some of the high-end keyboards that include sounds, as opposed to relying on a computer for them. If you really wanted to go over the top, you could mount a small touchscreen on the keyboard for sequencing on the go. Also, just a quick note on some of the other ideas that have been submitted and that are relying on battery power. It's worth remembering that the Pi only has 2 USB ports and that the adapter that powers a Pi will probably be only putting out 5 volts since it's USB. Bearing this in mind for more complex projects, a powered hub may be required to connect all the needed accessories, which would obviously need its own power source. Just something to consider. Thanks for reading. Love the show. P.S. Do you think it would be possible to have someone on from the company that makes the pies sometime in the future? Cheers, Ben. Is that from Ben, or is this the next one's Ben?
No, that whole thing's Ben.
Ben. Cheers from Ben. Cool. I love the USB keyboard thing. That's up my alley. The thing would be not to have a screen for sequencing. I'd have a screen so you can adjust the controls of the keyboard and the sounds and all the synthesizer knobs.
Right. Instead of having all the things above the keyboard where you can push buttons, programs, and things, you'd have that on the keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to have the people on the show, but I don't know if that's going to be possible because I know they are absurdly busy right now. And I will say I did put a link in the chat, and there is a link in the notes now, just to show I'm not crazy, of a guy with a bottle of water. He moves it around. You can see it's perfect liquid. And then all of a sudden, from one end of the bottle of water to the other, it becomes ice. And there's no chemicals. There's no trickery like that. It's just at the right temperature.
All right, I'll check it. I'll check it out after the show. Definitely, I see it in the notes there.
Okay.
Damn, we have like 1,000 emails. Where are all these coming from? A lot of these are Raspberry Pis.
I know. I know. We got a lot, and I gotta say, unbelievably cool ideas. Even stuff like the Super MIDI keyboard controller. I don't think I would ever use, but I love the idea of it being possible. For all I know, my kid in the next year is going to become a music fanatic, and he's going to want a MIDI keyboard.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny how the whole keyboards. People wanted just MIDI keyboards. Now they want analog. They want analog synthesizers back. It's just a way. It's just up. It's a cyclic thing. Who knows what they're going to want when Billy's ready to play something?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them are actually Raspberry Pi emails. So I just didn't check them off because you had sent me them in the notes. Let me play the voicemail from Red and then see if there's anything else that we missed. And if we did, we'll just play it next. We'll just do it next week. This is the voicemail from Red.
Steve and Steve. And
here, let me rewind that. Let me rewind that. There we go.
Hey, Steve and Steve. And whoever else might be hanging around. This is Red Dwarf calling for the Linux for the rest of us. Just thought I'd say a couple of words tonight. And you might not be able to get this on, I don't know. Anyway, talked to one of the bosses at work today and about my idea for Raspberry Pi. One of them, in making a bulletin board system. And he seemed very interested. So I may actually be putting something together for there. Just thought I'd let you guys know that you've stimulated some thought and maybe some kudos, credits, whatnot. So, hey guys, it might help me out. Door's always got good ideas. Sometimes they actually work too. Just kidding, Door. Later.
Thanks, Red. That's pretty cool. I mean, you did send it in the email, and so he's talking about his bulletin board. That's cool that the boss might want you to do that. Man, see, that's what makes work fun, when you originate something cool and then they say, yeah, go ahead and do it, and then you actually get to implement it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I could see someone non-tech go to their job, put up a Raspberry Pi touchscreen computer in their cube or in their area to keep track of something, and then have some IT guy walk by and go, what's that? You made that? What do you mean you made that? And then in a year, that person has a better job. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, if he keeps doing stuff like that, that's the attention-getting kind of stuff. And it just works out that it's the cool stuff to do, too.
Yeah. Irregardless, I want one of my cube, but it might be a machine to make fart sounds to get people to leave.
All right, this one's from Annie. And he says, hello, I'm a new listener going through your early shows, and I'm new to Ubuntu, and I just wanted to say thank you for your podcast.